Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind, Todd. I've been super excited about this month. Look, we've heard from really inspiring speakers. To me, raising a daughter, she's 11 years old. It's important to understand how crucial women are in our society and how far we have come, but how much further we have to go. So this entire month has been really remarkable for me. I really appreciate everyone here to both support, appreciate. I've gotten messages about all the speakers today. Of course, to wrap it all up, I am very excited to have Dr. Melody Tankersley from Kent State University be our speaker. Her bio is very long, but she was very gracious to provide a short version. She's the Dean for Graduate Studies and a professor in the College of Education, Health and Human Services. She's the Senior Associate Provost at Kent State University. Her experience and academic career is vast, from social and behavioral development of children and youth, with her research focusing on supporting parents and teachers in responding to emotional needs of their children and students. More than 100 scholarly publications, and her work has been recognized internationally. Most recently, she was awarded the James M. Kaufman Publication Award for a scholarly work that results in knowledge leading to exemplary practice. My personal note, feel that during this pandemic, these subject matters have taken on even more importance and significance in our society. Melody earned her doctoral degree from University of Virginia and was appointed postdoctoral fellow at University of Kansas. And since then, she has been a faculty member and administrator at Kent State University. And in her current role, she oversees offices as community outreach, institutional research, accreditation, and curriculum, in addition to her role as Dean of Graduate Studies. And of course, community outreach and Rotary here is an excellent intersection. So I'm very excited. I am really honored and feel privileged for her to spend her precious time here with us. Melody.
Thank you, Assad. Wow, I'd have to tell you, I'm used to giving talks. I'm not so used to it giving talks to my friends. And so many of you, I'm just honored to be here with you today to break bread with you. I'm truly excited to be here, and it's just a pleasure to get to spend time with you. It's also a pleasure to have Maddie Gordon, who I've known for so long and loved for so long, here with me. I haven't seen her in person in so many years, so this is truly special to me. And to be here on the day that you're recognizing one of my favorite people in the world, Glenn Saltzman, who I miss with my whole heart, makes it even more special. So thank you for inviting me. When Assad asked me to speak today, he said you might be interested in my career, as well as learning a little bit about me. Well, that's not my favorite topic, but I'm gonna give it a try. I think it's really important in thinking about women in leadership and having women talk about who they are and how they got here. Because I'm hoping that you see your daughter, your friends, your nieces, the women across the street in some of the things I'm going to say today. I did probably give you an old bio. I'm gonna just, sorry. I was the Dean of Graduate Studies and the Associate Provost. But today, I am the Senior Vice President of Kent State and the Provost. So, yeah. Thank you. Given COVID, you're the first people I think I've said that to outside of Kent State. So, wow, that felt good. So, I'm going to start with a spoiler alert. When I was a little girl, I didn't want to be a provost. I didn't want to be the senior vice president of a university. In fact, I don't think those are high on the list of any little girls growing up ambitions. I grew up in a very, very small town in South Carolina, Pickens. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's pretty small. We had one caution light, and that caution light was smack dab in the middle of 1 mile radius that defined the city limits. It's beautiful country in Pickens, South Carolina. It's an hour south of Asheville and at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Parkway. My mother was a clerk for the city, and my father worked at Sangamo Electric Company, making meters and capacitors. They worked long and hard, and they provided an amazing childhood full of love and joy for me and my 2 brothers. So when I grew up, I looked at the women in my lives, and most were working in secretarial work and nursing, if at all. But who influenced me were my teachers. So when I grew up, I wanted to be a teacher. And I would come home every day from school and make my little brother Chuck sit with all of my dolls all lined up and be my students as I taught them everything I learned that day. My mom would recount having to rescue a student several times when my admonishments became a little too severe or loud. But of course, all my reprimands were directed toward Chuck and none toward my dolls, because in fairness to my teaching practices, the dolls never answered incorrectly or got out of their seats without permission. I moved from teaching Chuck to teaching kittens. We had a lot of kittens, stray kittens that would come around the house, and found out soon that kittens didn't take well to direction at all either. So their education was short-lived. But luckily in elementary school, I started getting coveted roles that helped me solidify my future career as a teacher. I was the teacher helper, the attendance taker, the peer tutor, the classroom janitor, pencil sharpener, safety monitor, line leader, chalkboard eraser. Yeah, I loved helping the teacher, and no kittens got frustrated and no little brothers got yelled at in the process. In junior high school, I taught English to Vietnamese children of immigrant families who had settled in our community. And in high school, I volunteered to work with children with disabilities. It was that last role that stuck. I found my calling, my place. I wanted to teach children with disabilities. And to teach, you have to go to college. And this made me the first in my family to do so. I went to Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. My mom took on an extra job waiting tables at a local restaurant after working all day at City Hall to help pay my tuition. My dad would join her there after his shift and clean her tables for her. During my undergraduate program, I became most interested in teaching students with emotional and behavioral disorders, and later students with autism. I completed my bachelor's degree at Winthrop and landed my first teaching position at Lancaster, South Carolina Public Schools. I was a 21-year-old new teacher, and my students were 17, 18, and 19-year-old men with emotional and behavioral disorders. My students were tough, really tough. They were not successful students, having never learned to read or to achieve in school. They didn't want to be there, and they tried everything possible to save face and to simply make it through the day. Most attempts at saving face involved acting out, usually in angry ways. But some attempts were funny. Maybe they were a little scary at first, but they were also funny. I recall Jimmy telling me once that he had put a bomb in my car. I believed it a little bit. And I know that every time I would randomly look across the room, I would try not to make eye contact with Jimmy, because when I did, he would simply lean back in his chair and go. Eventually, we all figured out a way to move forward and how to have some successes every day. It was important to me that every one of my students found one way to have a success, because that was the only way I had a success. A few years later, I earned my master's degree, again from Winthrop, and started teaching at Alexander Children's Center, a residential treatment center for children with severe emotional and behavioral disorders in Charlotte, North Carolina. I taught at Alexander's for over 5 years and loved it. My students had severe, serious difficulties. They had every psychiatric diagnosis known. Most had been severely abused. Several had already had extensive involvement with the law enforcement, and they were all under the age of 12. They needed intense instruction and emotional support to learn not only how to read, but also how to trust, how to interact positively with others, how to control their emotions, how to find their best qualities and to build upon them, how to listen to others and themselves, how to effectively communicate, and how to manage a lifetime of disability and mental illness. It was an exhausting job, both physically and emotionally. The children's behavior was unpredictable and severe. Their needs were all-encompassing, and I loved it. I wanted to make a difference in their lives. I wanted to be able to provide for them what life had not provided for them so far. And I worked really hard to do so. And although I loved the position, it was intense. And I remember one day holding a child, and at that moment in my early 20s, thought, I can't do this when I'm 40. I thought 40 was really old. And I thought, I really need to think, how else can I serve? I wanted to find a way to help even more children. And that's when I decided to teach others how to work with children with emotional and behavioral disorders and autism. If I could make a difference in my classroom, I thought I could teach others how to make a difference in their classrooms. My lofty goal was to indirectly help as many children as I could by teaching their future teachers. So I entered my doctoral program at the University of Virginia with that one goal in mind. I wanted to learn how to become a teacher educator, someone who could help beginning teachers address behavioral and emotional needs of all children. And after I graduated from UVA and began my postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Kansas's Juniper Gardens Children's Project, which is an inner city research facility that addresses the educational and family needs of those in extreme poverty. I worked in Head Starts in Kansas City area, both Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. Those of you familiar with that area know it's one of the most impoverished areas in the nation. While at Juniper Gardens, I taught children, I taught teachers, I taught parents, I taught teachers and parents ways to help prevent the onset of emotional and behavioral disorders in young children. And I conducted research about those practices. From there, I got a call to come to Kent State. The university was looking for someone with my area of expertise, and somehow, some way, the dean got my number and called me. This was before the internet. I don't mean to tell you how old I am. Maybe it was just before the internet in Kansas City. Let's say that. It was before the internet, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but she talked me into coming. And as you can guess, when someone comes to Kent, they fall in love. They fall in love with the university. They fall in love with the city. They fall in love with the area it's located and all the different ways you can live and play and work. And that's what happened to me. I fell in love with Kent, all Kent. So over the close to 20 years, now I'm really telling you how old I am. I started when I was 8. Over the close to 20 years that I was on faculty, I counted that I'd taught 40 students on average a semester. I, as you heard, wrote over 100 books, chapters, or scientific papers on how to teach children and youth with emotional and behavioral disorders and autism. I provided over 100 professional development trainings to teachers who were already working and needed some support. So one day I did the math. I was shocked to see that I had taught at that time over 1,500 pre-service teachers and about 2,000 in-service teachers. Teachers who would go on to their brand new classroom or back to their classroom every year and teach a class of 20, 30 students. I wrote stuff that I hope teachers would find useful, or that the research that I conducted would help guide their practice. And on the day that I did the math, I realized that I indirectly did what I wanted to do. I indirectly was able to continue to help children with emotional and behavioral disorders and autism through my work at Kent State. At that point, I decided I wanted to help other faculty reach their goals. I wanted them to have the same opportunities that I had had as a faculty member, and I wanted to give back to the university that had given me so much, especially the platform to do my work. So in addition to serving as a coordinator of the special education program throughout my tenure as a professor, I also served as the department chair while in the College of Education, Health, and Human Services. In 2012, I got a call from the brand new provost. Well, I didn't get the call, my dean did. And he was introducing a new program of Provost Fellow that would take a faculty member for an entire year to work directly with him on issues facing academic affairs in the university. My dean told me to apply, and being the good soldier that I am, I did. And that's how I began working with Todd Diakin, first as his Provost Fellow. Over the past 9 years then, we'll fast forward, I became the Associate Provost, the Dean of Graduate Studies, the Senior Associate Provost, and now the Senior Vice President of the university and the Provost. It's been a whirlwind 9 years, to be sure. That's how I got here. I got here by trying to do the best I could every single day. I got here with a mission to help children and youth with emotional and behavioral disorders and with autism. I got into the position of administration at Kent State because I think I was doing a good job in all of my other roles. It wasn't a career path for sure. It wasn't planned for sure. I often get questions, and when you get into a position, as a lot of you know, people want to know how you did it. What's the secret? And I know I sorely disappoint everyone who asks me because the secret is do what you're doing now the very best you can. Give it your heart, give it your soul, have a purpose, have a mission, have a passion, and lean into that. That's how I got here. So the second part of my title was then, so what am I doing? So what am I doing now that I'm here, wherever here is? As you heard, I really have two positions. I'm the Senior Vice President of the university, the second in charge. I work with the president and the senior vice presidents on all university decisions, on strategic planning, administration. I get to work with my colleague and friend, Dr. Lamar Hilton, who is the Senior Vice President for Student Affairs. In my role as Provost, I oversee all the curriculum and all of the degrees that the university awards, making sure that our programs are up to date, that they're not just looking at the now, but also at the future. I make sure we hire the very best faculty, and man, do we have them. Award-winning programs taught by amazing faculty members. I also oversee institutional research, academic personnel, experiential education, civic engagement, That sounds familiar to this group, I know. Global education, assessment, and accreditation of the university and all of the academic programs. Whew, I always get a little sweaty when I talk about what I do. But I have the most amazing leadership team, and all I need to do is empower them to do what they do. So I'm responsible for the administration, the faculty, the staff within the 10 colleges and the 7 regional campuses. That's what I do. And I've learned a lot about leadership over these past years. And in many ways, I just rely on what I learned teaching others, teaching new teachers, experienced teachers, and children with emotional and behavioral disorders and autism. And I use those experiences to be a leader in higher education. Like teaching, leadership is about influencing and supporting others. That's it. Now, earlier I mentioned the 6 areas that I tried to teach my students: trust, interact positively with others, control emotions, find the best qualities and build upon them, listen to yourself and to others, and to communicate effectively. Now, let me tell you how I think those exact same areas are important to my approach to leading. Trust. That kind of says a lot, doesn't it? I want my team to trust, not in me, but in the process, to trust in themselves, in their colleagues, in their leaders, and especially in a shared vision. To interact positively with others. My favorite core value of Kent State is respect, kindness, and purpose in all we do. In my mind, that kind of sums up what a good leader should foster, what a good leader should expect and model. Control emotions. Well, that's kind of hard. That's kind of hard for me to help people do, but perhaps control emotions isn't the right phrase in this work. But in higher education, I certainly aim to foster an environment that is inclusive as well as productive, positive, and has that agreed upon mission, and is kind and supportive. Also, to find your best qualities and to build upon them. Leadership is about enabling and empowering the best, the full potential in others, and to listen to yourself and others. It's important that my team works in an atmosphere that allows everyone to participate, that everyone has a voice, a meaningful voice, and then to communicate effectively. It's critical that I'm not the only one communicating, and I hope I'm communicating effectively, but that our teams learn to communicate with one another, to share with one another, and to share with the people that they serve. So that's what I think is important for leadership. And I think what's important for my journey is to know for your daughters, your nieces, the friends across the street, that you can go from teaching dolls and kittens and your little brother to being a university administrator. There are looking at higher education at large, over 60% of the workforce are female, but only 32% provost are female, and only 20% of presidents are female. So we've got a lot of work to do to get from teaching dolls to being a university administrator. It's not an easy path. There's not a lot of role models out there. It's certainly not a straight path. And it's not yet a position that many young girls hope to grow up to hold. But I hope we can change that. I think of Lamar's 2 little girls, beautiful little girls who live across the street from me. And I'm gonna make darn sure they know what a provost does. It's an awesome privilege to work at Kent State University in the amazing city of Kent, in this community. And with some incredibly great people, both at the university, in the city, and especially right here in this room. Thank you for having me today.
We have time for just a few questions. I am hoping that you can stay after because I do want, if other people have questions. Okay, I see a question over here from Paul. This is on. Yeah.
Melody, obviously you've learned to teach people and have had a lot of success with that. I'm really curious, in your first teaching experiences, did your kittens or your brother ever graduate from anything?
My kittens did really well.
All right, there you have it. I have a little brother too. I get that. Roger Sidoti.
You. A wonderful presentation, really.
Thank you, Roger.
I don't know, the recent survey, the recent data has come out, is noted that we're moving towards 60% of our undergraduates are female and 40% are male. What's the impact on the university and the thinking about higher education about that particular piece of data?
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomena, isn't it? I mean, thinking back when university experience was only offered to men, and today we find ourselves in this new situation where the majority of undergraduate students are female. And this isn't just for Kent State. This is a phenomena across the country. So how does that impact? Well, it impacts everything, right? I mean, it impacts certainly the student experience. It impacts us being able to listen to women, to their voices, to being able to make sure we provide, that Lamar provides, co-curricular programming that's important to them. It impacts when we listen to students, to women students, on what they want to major in. So it matters, but it matters that we also throw away a lot of the stereotypes that we thought mattered. So when I look at our engineering program, which has really been incredible in increasing the enrollment, one of the things I'm interested in is increasing the enrollment for women, and we're doing it. We graduated our very first female engineer one year ago. Now, that's good for a brand new program, but it's not where we're stopping. So we've got to break down the stereotypes. We've got to think differently. It's not, as it was when I grew up, that the only careers available to women were nursing, teaching, secretarial work. That's who my role models are. That's not who are the role models for the women today. And we need to make sure that they're exposed to those role models.
Thank you. Okay, one more from Bill, and then Sandy Reed is going to be next. So here you go, Bill. You get the last question.
Thanks, Kathy. Melody, great presentation. Thanks for being here. And the concerns and barriers for students today and women today who are in college and high school, what are your biggest concerns? And Instagram, so let me know.
Lamar is eager for me to answer this question, I can see. I have concerns on social media, period. I mean, I think that if you look at social media and any of the social media, it's some that we participate in, some that we don't. It's people posting their best life. It's people posting that snippet or even editing that moment in their life for it to look even better. And what does that mean? What does that mean for the people looking at it who aren't having those experiences or who weren't invited to that experience, and not invited because they weren't in that group or not invited in a larger societal way because of the color of their skin. What does that mean to them? What does that mean for all of us? What does it mean to the poster that I'm seeking out the one picture that makes me look the best? And it doesn't matter if it makes my friends not look the best, but it's about me. We're really feeding some unflattering traits, I believe. So it's about that. It's about the mental health of our students, of our society, to be honest. We know that the mental health needs of our students have risen, I don't know, Lamar, 50%, 100-fold. It's taking an incredible toll. I can point to Tom, and I'm sure that he's facing similar issues at the Kent City schools. It's real. The mental health crisis that our young students are in is real. And I don't think social media helps play that way. But there are ways we can use social media for good. And that's where I want to focus. How can we make sure that students are knowledgeable about what is available, knowledgeable about how to assess what they're seeing? How can we make sure that we're using social media to support students?
Great, thank you very much. It is a tradition in our club that we have a
please don't say sing.
responder
Oh.
that you have to sing. We are a singing club, but you don't have to. You're-
When my mother named me Melody, that was the end of my singing or any musical career. That's all I got.
Okay, well, lucky for you, it's not your turn. It's Sandy's turn to sing. No, we have a responder to
Yeah.
respond to each of our programs. And today the responder is Sandy Reed. And as she's walking right over here to take this mic from me, I did like your words about civic engagement. And I think this group would love to have you engage with us more
Oh,
often.
we would love that. Thank you.
Tuesdays noon, we're always
Thank you
here.
very much.
Here you go, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you, Melody. This past month has been an incredible series of programs that we're focusing on women in leadership, and not just women in leadership locally, but as you've shown, nationally and internationally. And we appreciate you sharing your time from your busy schedule with us. We're so happy that your journey from South Carolina led you to Kent.
Thank you.
Your information that you shared today is a great example of humble, with a sense of humor, leadership, servant leadership, and that's so important today. So thank you for sharing with us today, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Personally, I wanted to also add, at Davy Tree, we really appreciate your team helping us both on the leadership and the education side with collaborations so that we can bring more interns and graduates into programs that hopefully can stay and work and live in Kent and throughout North America. So thank you.
Thank you for those words and for Davy Tree.
We appreciate it. Now we will close our meeting today with the four-way test.